A petition calling for tough restrictions on abortion made its way through Albuquerque and garnered enough signatures for the initiative to be put on the October 8th ballot. Project Defending Life, the organization behind the petition, was spurred into action by the ban on late-term abortions recently signed by Texas Governor Rick Perry. They fear the Texas ban will prompt more women to cross state lines and get their abortions done here, Laura. Now, supporters of the ban call Albuquerque a late-term abortion capital of the U.S. That's an awfully tough charge for a lot of folks. It's a very problematic issue for folks in the Catholic community and other places. Is that a fair term to use with the group that's being protested against now, or is something else afoot here that needs some light?
Well, it's obviously a very politically charged term to use. It's a very divisive and creative way to put a point on what they're trying to make. So kudos to them for branding. But I disagree. I mean, I don't think we're known as the late-term abortion capital of the country. That's a little nutty.
Let me cut you out there for a quick second, just to put a little more meat on that. The folks who were in that infamous case in Kansas, working in that situation, I think 3 of them are now here in Albuquerque. And this group that chased that situation down in Kansas are now the same ones chasing it down here. So they have a little bit of a term to use, don't they? I mean, these folks specialize in this kind of thing.
Well, they specialize in that, yes. Right. But I mean, it's a service. It's a currently legal service, and hopefully, the proper medical certification and regulatory process is being adhered to. But I think it's obviously designed to be a divisive issue. I mean, they're making it sound like this is something that's commonly known, and maybe commonly known to their community, which goes to different states to fight this. But I think, also their effort in trying to collect signatures, they specifically targeted Catholic churches. They set up tables at Catholic churches to get signatures. And I heard from several of my friends at the Newman Center that, they weren't getting as much attention at the Newman Center as other churches. But, I mean, I think they've gone through the process of getting signatures. My understanding is they need 12,000, that they were getting about 12,000. You need many more than 12,000 in order to ensure you qualify. So they
a lot of them don't count, they're struck and
some people just sign because they're in the moment, but they're not necessarily registered here or registered voters. So, it remains to be seen whether they'll actually qualify. But I think it will continue to be something that that proponents of choice will continue to fight, and I think that there will be just as much activism on that side to try to prevent this from going through.
Antoinette, some folks on the other side of the ledger feel this is a way to gain entry to diminish women's rights, and it should not be on the ballot. What's your view on that, and how do you see this actually sort of playing out if in fact it does then make the ballot on October 8th?
Well, it will get people on both sides really active, really excited. A lot of money will be spent, and
out-of-state money will come in.
Out-of-state money will come in, and what bothers me the most, I guess, is I really wish that attention and out-of-state money would really focus on the quality of women's lives, the quality of the children. How do we ensure that fewer abortions are necessary? Better contraception, better information about early abortions. Some of these people who need late abortions just didn't have the opportunity to get one where it wouldn't have been so challenging and traumatic. And then, I mean, when you talk about a service, I think that's really important. It's almost like I don't know, it's just this targeting of these individuals who are really trying to do a service for people, for women who need it. And I just think it's just not really healthy for our community to have this divisive fight. It's going to happen, though. We're going to have a divisive fight, and that's what I predict.
It's come to our doorstep, Dr. Bailey, that's for sure. And what's been problematic is there have been some medical issues at this facility. Some women have had to have help from, being taken to hospitals through complications. And these folks, I'm going to guess, are feeling like that, but they're playing a fairly strong hand, feeling like, well, that's not an issue most folks would support. Do you see something like this, if it makes it on the ballot, being supported to end these types of abortions? What's your take on where Albuquerque might be on this?
Well, I'm not sure where Albuquerque's on this. My take is that a woman should have the right to make the final decision about what's happening with her body. That's to be sacred between her and her physician. It's going to be controversial, but a lot of things are. But I think that we need to better educate young women, and we have to make sure that we don't develop laws that's going to decrease access to health care. So I think if we keep those in mind, we'll come out
Sure. There you go. Tom, the politics of this are fascinating.
Yeah.
This could actually swamp over the mayor's race in some ways. You know, when you think about the heat of it that's going to be coming, Internet's quite right. Look at other places. Ton of money's been spent on these initiatives. So where do you see the politics playing out on this?
Well, the politics, this is where it really gets fascinating. I mean, not that the discussion itself that all of Albuquerque could potentially have is going to be interesting, but you all of a sudden are going to have a mayoral election, which is overshadowed, and when that happens, the main elected races are actually influenced by those who in the overshadow. So, it depends. Before, in the mayoral race, Mayor Barry only had to worry about getting his base out.
Right.
Now he has to worry about not just getting his base out, but somehow diffusing himself of this whole political issue, which is going to come raining down on this mayoral campaign. Right. Looking down, about 6, 7, 8 months from now, depending how the issue is resolved in Albuquerque, will really help to influence perhaps the governor's race. Because if all of a sudden it passes here, Democratic-controlled legislature with a 30-day legislative session have the right to put things on the ballot, including this very issue, but just from a different perspective.
Right.
And so the Republicans, who have traditionally done well in these types of races and stuff, could all of a sudden find that what is an issue designed to really just decide in Albuquerque what is what is and is not allowed could end up impacting a statewide gubernatorial race next year. So that's what I think is going to be interesting.
Yeah, good point. Laura, please.
One thing I will say is just that even if this does get on the ballot, and even if it does pass here in Albuquerque, it's going to be challenged because it's basically a city ordinance just for the city of Albuquerque, which is not, there will be a challenge as to the city's ability to regulate this kind of an issue. This is a state issue, and under state law, it's legal. And so for the city of Albuquerque suddenly to pass something to restrict it, I think will easily be challenged. And then it'll continue in the court system.
Right.
So, whether they're doing it for long-term effect or for immediate effect, I think one thing is certain, at least to me, that this is an out-of-state effort. A group of people that are basically coming in. A lot of the buzz out there on the internet is from out-of-state groups trying to come in here and change the law in Albuquerque. They see an opportunity. But I think this effort, as Tom mentioned, will have, I think, beneficial effects on the turnout for the mayoral race, which is traditionally really low, and it could benefit P. Donnelly in this. So I can't imagine that Mayor Barry's real happy to see this on the ballot.
Right. Where did on that point, I have to laugh when you said that, because does it serve him to come out with a position on this before the election, or is he better served to stay quiet on this?
I mean, talk about a pickle. I don't know. I mean, I would think
Seriously.
that if he wants, because he got a lot of crossover vote the last time around. He really did. He did a lot to try to bring out the Hispanic vote, and I think he did that effectively. But he also had 2 Democrats that were running, so they ended up splitting the vote. I think in this case, if he touches it, he might get a lot of more conservative folks turn away, but then he might get a little bit of crossover vote if he came out against the ban, or against the ban.
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, that's right. So it's a tough one for him.
I don't think he talks about it
Sure.
until it's on the ballot.
Gotcha.
No need to talk about speculative issues that
Sure.
could or might be. Just focus on what
Come
is.
out in a press release from your
But
opponent
again,
the
this
next
is
day.
not even in the,
Sure.
I mean, abortion issues are not in the purview of the mayor's race.
right.
I mean, they're not, it's
He
not
has
like
no
he's
power
acting,
over
right.
it.
Right. But somehow both of these candidates are going to get touched on this.
Oh,
Because people are going to be
it's an
asking them
issue.
about this in forums and debates. I might even ask them at a debate. It's just going to see how it goes.